What's going on, guys? I'm Matt. I'm the host of the Perspective Project, and this is my buddy here, Matt, and we're going to be having a little conversation today. So, Matt, why don't you tell the people about yourself?
Okay. Well, that's a hard question because I'm weird. I'm Matt. Also, I'm originally from Wyoming, and I was born and raised in Wyoming. And then I came to college to attend ASU and get my degree in biology. And I'm currently applying to medical school. And I was Matt's fraternity's brother, and he asked me to do this project, so I'm excited.
Here you go. All right. So, are you working right now, or?
I am. Yeah, I work at a hospital. We're at Honor Health Hospital. It's part of a healthcare system. We got, I think, 7 hospitals. I work on the med surge floor as a PCT, which is pretty much just like a CNA almost. I take care of patients and change their wounds and take them to the bathroom, make sure that they get their medications, they don't fall, they,
You're a good person.
Wiping on some butts, trying to make sure that they don't get infected from their own bodily fluids. So that's the hard part, but it's pretty fun. I enjoy it. Yeah.
You're a better man than me. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into today's topic. And the question I'm going to ask you is, should hate speech be against the law in America? Or in general?
The first thing that I want to say is a disclaimer that I am not an expert on anything. And I think that anything that I say can be taken with a grain of salt, as with anybody. And if I say something that's not factually correct or whatever, I don't know. My bad. So
These are just opinions. That's all this is. It's one big opinion just to get the conversation started.
That's fair. So hate speech. I think the biggest thing that immediately comes to mind is, what is hate speech? And that question, because you say, oh, hate speech, and to me, I would have my definition of what hate speech might be, right? Something racist or something about, stereotype, prejudice, things like that, and saying that, hey, let's, do harm towards other people or, bring people down because of who they are. That would be my definition, right?
Okay.
But my definition might be different to somebody else, right? So, let's do an example real quick, okay? So let's imagine that we're in Germany in 1943, okay?
I'm there.
And I'm a Jewish person, okay? And we have a friend who's in the Nazi party, and he says, Jews are worthless or whatever, they should be eradicated, all his views, right? To me, and to most of the world, and even today, everybody would say that's hate speech, and we'd all say inherently that's wrong, right? Okay, well, now I'm a Jewish person, and I say the same exact thing about the Nazi party. Well, to him, that's hate speech to him, right? Mm-hmm. And so what it ultimately comes down to is if we argue about, well, how can we categorize what is hate speech? There's always going to be somebody that says that's not hate speech and this is hate speech, right? And, in America, we always think about freedom and liberty, and those have definitions that, again, might be, well, this is a freedom to you, but not a freedom to me, or this is part of liberty, this isn't part of liberty. So I think when you boil it down, it might not be something that has a right answer.
Okay.
It's complex, and it's based on your perspective, your background, all the things in your life that would determine it, right? Mm-hmm. And so based on that, I would say that it shouldn't be illegal. Now, disclaimer on that is people should have the ability to hear what somebody says and have the education, have the background to say, that's wrong. And even though you said it, I can recognize that that's wrong. It's not true. I don't support it. And that's what we all wish, right? Yeah. I mean, everybody in this room hears something racist. We all inherently, because we have, good families, we have a good background, we have education, we've had gifts in our lives that have blessed us with an ability to say that's wrong, and we don't believe in that. But that's untrue. Not everybody has that. And that's how you get bad things happening, on a large scale like the Nazi Party, or on a small scale like you're at Walmart and somebody says, you know, something racist to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And so it should be legal. The thing is that we have to try to work as a society to educate every single person in the United States to recognize things that are wrong.
Okay.
You know, I think everybody in the world, or in the United States, understands that the N-word is bad, right?
Yeah,
But there's still
obviously.
people out there that still say it, they still use it, they still think, well, whatever, I can say it and believe that it's, you know, it's true. But we need to keep progressing as a society and educating each other that it's not true. And we can eventually overcome things, but it's going to be continuous. It's never going to stop. You're always going to have somebody that's like, I don't like that person for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So,
And I couldn't really agree more with the fact that the definitions change over time. Like early 1800s in America, if a white man said something racist to a black man, there's no big deal. That's par for the course, normal. But if a black man said that to a white man, that's hate speech, lynch mobs, all the horrible things that are what you'd call like the horrible past of America. And the only way to get that better is to let those groups, in my opinion, if a group has a bad idea, the best way to let them know they have a bad idea, let them say it publicly and let the masses of people go, you're a piece of shit.
Mhm.
You don't need your job. You don't need this. You don't need that. And let the social pressures kind of force people to change their thinking and not, you said a joke about a Chinese person and driving, you need to go to jail or pay a fine.
yeah.
And I agree with you in that aspect. But there's the other side of it where if you could directly link someone saying a hate speech towards, I know the trans community has a lot of hate speech, a lot of issues with that. If someone saying something to them directly or indirectly results in them harming themselves, does it cross the line where is it still words and it's protected, or did those words cause enough negative to that person that now it's kind of crossed the realm into it, even if it's not, even if it's just words they should be like charged or tried or anything like that. So what do you think about that? Like, should that be protected if there's a clear, you said this horrible thing to someone, say it was you that said it?
You know, that's an interesting point, and I think that comes down to what is the clear line. It goes back to it's too hard. That's an interesting point, and I think that comes down to what is the clear line. It goes back to it's too hard to define.
Yeah.
For example, I don't want to even talk about necessarily like, you know, the experiences of other people, because I can only talk about my experience, which has been incredibly blessed because, you know, I'm white, straight male, whatever, and not poor. So things have been pretty freaking butter smooth for me in my whole life. So I can't even talk about, you know, what would be offensive to me. Almost nothing. Nothing would be offensive, right? And whereas somebody else who has whatever experience, things would be a lot different to them. And I think that you just can't draw that line. You can't draw the line. Okay, you can you can draw the line, but it would only be for you, right? You can say, this is offensive to me. You can draw that line because that's how you feel, but you can't say, oh, that needs, you know, what he said needs to prosecute, because you can't do that. And it's so hard, and that's a bummer. Because I wish it could just be like I wish it could be just cut and dry.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, just like driving drunk. You know, you were driving drunk. It's just proven. It's done. You're getting charged for it. You can't do that with speech.
Yeah.
Which sucks, and that's why there is a problem. However, I think there could be a line where if you incite like mass violence or violence for yourself, I think you can draw a line there. For example, in the hospital, if somebody says, even if they're intoxicated beyond whatever, they're clearly not in their will, they say, I'm going to harm myself. Anybody that's taking care of them or around them has to take that seriously and assume that they're going to.
Yeah.
So we could make assumptions about it and then progress from there. So if somebody says, oh, I'm going to hurt myself, since you said that and we don't know what's going to happen, we're going to try to keep you safe. And we are going to encroach on your rights and your liberties by keeping you in a hospital until we make sure you're safe. And that's, you know, some people say that's, you know, bullshit. How can you tell when I'm actually, maybe I was joking.
Yeah.
And that, okay, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Even if I just was working on a shift and I said, oh, I'm gonna, hurt myself, my coworkers would probably take that seriously and at least report it and try to do something, right? Because they don't know the line, and then you don't want to be that guy that gets in trouble for it, or whatever. And so, let's say that, for example, a guy goes on social media and has a big following and says, we are going to attack this church or this mosque or whatever. We got to take that assumption. We got to step in. So that hate speech is, or that speech that could be defined as hate speech would be inciting violence or about to do something, but you have to take that assumption. And so I think taking assumptions is okay. For example, you go on Facebook and you write some huge racist thing.
Yeah.
And your boss fires you. Your boss just took an assumption on what that means. He doesn't want to be correlated with that. He doesn't want to be the guy that, even if it was a joke, whatever your story is, you got to think past that. He's taking that assumption. And I think assumptions are okay. But again, they're always going to be argued. So when assumption is taken, you have to be prepared, have that evidence, and when somebody, of course, when that person's like, you shouldn't have held me in the hospital, I was just kidding. You got to have that evidence. You got to have that law where it's like, I don't care if you said it. My policy is when you say it, we're taking it seriously, right? Yeah. So that might be kind of a law. I guess.
And I mean, kind of going off what you said to give another side of it is the way society changes and what is considered hate speech. Imagine if Donald Trump, he won this election and he says, you know what, all hate speech against anybody that's a supporter of mine, max or minimum sentence 2 years in prison if you say anything bad about a Trump supporter. And you already have a law on the book that says hate speech results in 2 years in prison. Whoever's in charge at the time can move those definitions around the same way it's been done for hundreds of years. The definitions of words get moved, lawyers get to do their thing, and next thing you know, you say this Trump supporter is an idiot, and then you have the cops knocking on your door and say, give us $1,000 or you're going to prison for 30 days.
Yeah.
You just don't know which way it's going to go, or the other way, where if Biden wins and there's something on the books where it says, hey, hate speech is a punishable offense. He goes, I'm going to change hate speech to if you say anything bad about a Democrat, but we can say whatever we want about Republicans because obviously they're wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously they're wrong. So we can do whatever we want, say whatever we want, and we have the law on our side. So especially once the law kind of says that you're a protected class or you aren't a protected class, society will start to follow suit with that. So if Trump's people are number one and Biden's are number two, it will start to reflect that if the laws also show it.
Definitely. That reminds me, there's a book, right? It's called the Gulag Archipelago. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's a ridiculously,
Russia, right?
Ridiculously long book, right? And that was written in secrecy. Can't remember the guy's name. I'll probably butcher the pronunciation.
Yeah.
But written in secrecy in Russia during when the Iron Wall and or Iron Curtain, whatever it was called. And he writes this whole book describing what it was like to be in the gulags and what got people sent there and all these different things. And really what it comes down to is a lot of what you just said. So in Russia, they're saying what, they're just defining what is wrong speech, what is hate speech, and sending you to a gulag for 8 years. And the gulags are terrible. I mean, you're starving, you're freezing, you're a slave. And he writes his book in secrecy. And this book, which is considered hate speech there, eventually got out. He got it to a publisher in France, and he, got around the world, and the world learned, about what was going on in Russia, in these gulags, what was getting people sent there. And that did something really great because the world was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is going on. Mm-hmm. And it really helped change that hate speech in Russia that was written in secrecy and all these things changed the world. It really helped a lot of people out, and it was transformational in the world, right? And so when you have, that's why not banning hate speech or starting to encroach on things is important, because the next thing you know, things are going to start being taken away, and it's going to start coming down to, oh, I heard Matt Bronner said X, Y, and Z, and you're getting your rights taken away, you're going to prison. Yeah. And that's a slippery slope. And I know people always say slippery slope, whatever. What does that even mean? But it does. It happens, And things become more and more taken away from you if you are granted more and more leeway. I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I can't prove that's gonna happen. I'm just saying, you know, in Russia that happened. That's an example of it. But it's why it's good to have people be able to speak up and produce their own media. Like, that's really unique about America, which is awesome.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do right now, is just start a conversation on a topic like this that doesn't necessarily have a right or a wrong answer, but still needs to be talked about nonetheless. Because on paper, sounds great. I know there was a bill that they just proposed in our government that's called the anti-lynching bill, which sounds great on paper, but what it really did is, let's say you get in a bar fight, mutual, both of you guys are assholes, you knock a guy out and he was Hispanic and you were white, they would now charge you under a hate crime and you go to prison for 20 years. Even though you may have not actually hated him because of his race, you guys are both just drunk and wanted to get in a fist fight. So you kind of hide things, make it sound like it's going to be good. Like, we're going to get rid of hate speech. We're going to anti-lynching. These are like almost trigger words that make it sound like we're doing the right thing. It will eventually come around and bite you. Like, I personally can't think of too many countries where they've censored their citizen speech and made certain things not okay and took people to jail for it, and it worked out in the favor where people didn't end up dying in like pretty large numbers. Like, it's going on in China.
In the society, right?
Yeah, I mean, even in China right now, if we were to make this video being a Chinese citizen and just putting the Chinese government on blast, we would end up getting a knock on the door within the next week, and I don't know what would happen. I can't speculate what would happen, but I wouldn't want to be there for when they actually come knocking on your door, like, why did you say these things? So I would say that would be the beauty of the First Amendment, is it's not always ugly, it's not cold cut, this is good, this is bad, but it is protecting you, even though you may not realize it and you think that it's causing more problems. Like, you are protected under the First Amendment, whether you know it or not, because any opinion you have could eventually become the wrong opinion and get you in trouble with anything. And I mean,
yeah, that's why you got. But on the side note of that, I think that with the First Amendment, everybody should take a little bit responsibility to not be a bystander to hate speech. For example, when somebody says something terrible, your buddy or whatever, you gotta stand up and say, dude, what are you saying? And either remove, if he's not willing to learn, and shape up, don't be his friend, and continue to always speak up for what is right and against that kind of hate speech. Because like you said, I thought the social pressure is important, right? And social pressure of changing people's opinion on things and trying to say, dude, that's not right,
Yeah.
You have the right to say that, but that doesn't mean it's right. And you can say whatever you want, but that doesn't make you not an idiot.
Yeah.
Or make you not a bad person.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes. And I think that our generation, that continues to be important. I don't know about past generations. I know that whatever. I didn't live during then. I'm just going to say right now, it doesn't matter who you are. You hear something bad, you need to speak up about it. And the more that we do that, the more our buddies and our friends and whoever we encounter might change. And if they don't, I hope they do. And just keep doing it. If it doesn't work out, doesn't mean you're doing the right thing, so continue to do it, even if it doesn't change somebody. Or, try to go about it tactfully. You don't have to, if somebody says something wrong, maybe they don't recognize it.
Don't scream in their face. That's a hard way to get someone to move in the right direction.
Yeah, try to be tactful about it. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know that it's wrong. Yeah. So try to find that out.
If you jump down someone's throat, they're just going to get more entrenched in their ways if they say something that maybe is a little off taste, but they didn't mean anything that bad by it, and you immediately you were a Nazi, you were the problem.
Yeah.
We need to report you. I'm recording you. You need to lose your job. That person is just going to be like, I didn't do anything wrong. That wasn't my intent. And now they're more entrenched in those ways.
Yeah, they're going to dig in their heels, right? Just be mindful. Take responsibility of yourself. If you post on Facebook, something racist and you lose your job, I don't think anybody's gonna feel too bad for you, because that's just, you're stupid and you need to learn, and hopefully that teaches you. I'm not sure.
And I know there's other things about how people's past get brought up a lot, especially with social media. I know recently Kevin Hart was supposed to host the Oscars or something
Yeah.
like that. They found a tweet from 10 years ago. Keep in mind, he's an up-and-coming comedian, trying to be funny, trying to say outlandish things 10 years ago on the internet. He said something that probably wasn't the best of taste, probably offended some people.
Mhm.
He lost that gig, which probably would have paid him hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, got him a lot of fame and all that, and he lost that job just because of something he said 10 years ago. So do you think there's like still overreach when it comes to that, or do you think like things like that could be justified? Like, can people change, or should they be given the opportunity to change if they've ever messed up? Like, if you have an uncle that for the first 10 years of your life was a racist dude, and you're like, come on,
Yeah.
is that person redeemable?
Do I think, to answer that, do I think people are redeemable?
Yeah.
Yes, I think they can be redeemable,
Mm.
but that takes serious action
Yeah.
on their part. And what is redeemable to me? I might think somebody's redeemable, but somebody else, that guy's, let's say the guy says something bad and that really offended me. Maybe he's never going to be redeemable.
Mm.
That's just how it goes, man.
Yeah.
So when Kevin Hart says something 10 years ago, the time doesn't matter to me, because you said something 10 years ago and maybe it was a joke.
Mm.
And I'm sure it was, Kevin Hart, because he's a comedian and you're supposed to say outlandish things and those things. And to me, which is my opinion, okay, you said something offensive and offended people, you lost the gig.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. Life's gonna move on, and now the times are changing to where you gotta be conscious of what you say. And if something in the past comes up, it's hard, that line of should it ruin your life? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, because was it a joke? I don't know that.
Yeah.
Was it super offensive? I also don't know. I don't even know what he
I
said.
don't know what he said either, but there was something
Right.
that was enough to get that job taken away from him.
Exactly, right? So, God, it's hard, I think what's the Canadian president? He did like blackface or something. He did blackface
Like twice, like
yeah,
a couple times.
Yeah, he did it back. He did it back in college. He did blackface.
Yeah.
Horrible, right?
Yeah.
And he, back then nobody blinked an eye,
Yeah.
right? So he fucking did it, no problem. Sorry for swearing.
No, you're good. And now he's like the beacon of woke culture in Canada.
Right.
Now everybody's like bowing down to him.
Yeah, so you look at his actions and you think, this guy's a pretty stand-up dude.
Yeah.
But then you look at that and you're like, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
And so I think when you look at that kind of stuff, I don't know if there's a right answer. My opinion is, I look at him doing blackface and I think, that you messed up. Bad move, dude. That's terrible. That is not good. And then I look at him now and I see what he's doing and I think, okay, he did that. Is he that person right now? That's what I do. And I would say, no.
Yeah, you definitely.
Do I think, I think Kevin Hart said something about being gay.
Something with that, yeah. But
Right.
I think 10 years ago, that was normal. Like, I would imagine, like, you were a young man in 5th grade and you're like, I don't want to play that sport. That's gay. This is gay. And, like, that's what people used to do 10 years ago. And now, obviously, times are changed. And I don't personally use that. Matt doesn't personally use that. It's...
Yeah, but 10 years ago, okay, 10 years ago is still offensive. That's the
Exactly.
thing, right? So, like,
But I'm saying, I think
10 years
people are
ago
more
still
aware now.
Yeah, people are like, dude,
Yeah.
what? The times are changing? Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah. So it is more on a societal level wrong. It was still wrong then.
Yeah.
I think that him saying that, do I think that Kevin Hart hates gay people? No, I don't think that. I don't think anybody, and of course he doesn't. He would say, no, I don't. What, are you crazy?
He's a guy in Hollywood. It's all he works with. Like,
Yeah, he's out, whatever. He's living a life, man. I don't think that he feels that way. But so I would take, what is he doing right now? Is he that person? Does he really believe that does his actions speak to that way? But that's just how I would look at it. However, if I'm at the CEO of the whatever the hell the Grammys it was, and I had to choose between Kevin Hart and he has this tweet that says something, and a guy that didn't say it, I'm going with the guy that didn't say it. Because there's plenty of comedians out there. There's plenty of people that don't have that on there.
yeah.
And so that's another thing. When you're going into business and it's like, is he the only... I mean, God, you made a mistake, dude, whatever. You're going to move on with life. This guy doesn't have that mistake,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going with this guy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We're all replaceable. We are...
Yo, if my son
Hey,
comes
phone.
home... We're reading the tweet here. Is this the tweet?
Okay, so this is the tweet from Kevin Hart.
Is this the tweet? Yo, if my son comes home and tries to play with my daughter's dollhouse, I'm going to break it over his head and say, And my voice stops. That's gay. Read it. Okay.
That's a good one.
That's pretty bad.
I mean,
Jesus.
yeah, that's a pretty tough one right there to recover from.
Child abuse and
Homophobic. Yeah.
You know, yeah. If I read that and I'm thinking, nah, Kevin Hart, you just you fucked up, man. Sorry, bro. You shouldn't have said that. I don't care if it's a joke.
No.
You can't say that.
That's a tough one to come back from
Yeah,
right
shit,
there.
man. You fucked up.
I don't think he knew in 10 years he was going to be in the situation where, like, hey, you're like the most paid comedian, you're this, you're that. He probably never thought that was going to come to
Well,
life.
either way, I think that when that happens, shit like that happens, everybody should look at that and just, in my opinion, everybody should look at that and just say, hey, you fucked up. Why would you say that?
Yeah.
That was stupid. Don't say that. That was wrong. You messed up. And then he should say, you know what? I messed up. I shouldn't have tweeted that because that's messed up. That's wrong, and I don't do it. Yeah, and then that's fine. We move on. We give him another chance. Whatever. You know, live, laugh.